Bridgerton isn't spectacular because of the storyline, it's because of the performers and crew that research, develop, and bring it to life. It's not an easy assignment, but it appears that their efforts totally paid off. In this video, we'll talk about all the rules that the actors had to follow in order to make Bridgerton such a huge success. So watch till the end so you don't miss out. There are several dancing sequences throughout both seasons, especially because most of the show is set during the Debunte's search for their perfect partner at balls and dances, so naturally all the actors had to learn classical dancing. As a matter of fact, most of them had never danced like they do in the show until they began rehearsing. The choreographers, of course, had to add some modern touches to the traditional dances because the people of this era were definitely not dancing to Billie Eilish. Long hours in dance classes also allowed Phoebe Denvoir and Regine Page to get familiar with one another, which paid off in the strong connection that they showed on screen. Because the show is mostly about the upper class in the early 19th century England, the actors were required to undergo etiquette lessons in order to play their roles accurately. Daphne and the other Debuntes probably didn't spend their whole lives training to act properly in a society with so many rigid, implicate standards. The actors, however, only had a 6-week intensive crash course to learn to walk, talk, behave, and think like people who had spent their lifetimes mastering these skills and standards.
Do not worry, Your Grace. I believe such a win would be promptly forfeited.
When the cast initially received their schedules for preparation for filming, they were shook. Honestly, who wouldn't be? Because the Duke's fighting style in the show is significantly different from the boxing we see today, Regine Page had to master how to box the old-fashioned way in order to be realistic, as well as to keep in shape because he revealed a lot of skin throughout the show. Boxers in England don't use gloves at this time, and there were other restrictions that they had to respect that were extremely different from what you would see today.
And perhaps, circling back to, she is my sister.
Because boxing played such an important role in the show's evolution, it would have been off-putting if the creators hadn't done their homework on the sport's history. Bridgerton's actors must be serious in many situations, but as we all know, the times when you have to be the most serious are the times when you're most likely to burst out laughing like a little kid.
That's your sister, Bridgerton? On the contrary, you wish your sister to marry a loathsome toad, but Lord Bridgerton.
Even for these seasoned actors, there were moments when they had to work hard to keep their laughs in check, particularly the ones in the pretended carriages where they had to sit in a fake carriage next to a green screen while crew workers shook the carriage and produced fake horse noises. One of the more unexpected aspects of Bridgerton for viewers was the fact that the cast had to go through intense intimacy training for the show's sizzling moments. According to the cast, these moments were rehearsed with an intimacy trainer who assisted them in choreographing every moment, much like a fight scene. That's gotta be really awkward though, right? This training was really beneficial because once they began flirting, everything appeared to be as natural as possible, while everyone involved was as relaxed as possible.
Not lie. I thought you were prepared. I thought you understood how a child.
The unorthodox technique may appear unusual at first, but it's actually very smart since it gives the performers power and permission in a highly sensitive situation while also ensuring that the final result is the best it can be. The actors had to do some reading in order to fully immerse themselves in their roles. They had to learn not only history, but also the novels that inspired the series in the first place in order to understand where the show writers were coming from.
The two of you certainly make a captivating match, Your Grace.
Some of the actors even went as far as to visit fan sites and Reddit discussions to see what fans of the novels would want from their characters, rather than just show how the beloved characters should be depicted or what the books the directors had to say about them. Not everyone has ridden a horse, let alone received the kind of training that elites of the 19th century England did. Because numerous sequences were shot on horseback, the performers had to take horseback riding lessons in order to fully depict their roles. If you weren't familiar with the concept of horseback riding, you may be unaware of how unique it is, as well as the various types of riding. In this aristocrat culture, women were required to ride the horse one way while the males were expected to ride it another, and both were very different from how you rode horses at summer camp. In case you didn't know, Bridgerton is based on a popular love novel series of the same name. Julia Quinn's series portrays the characters we've all come to appreciate thanks to Shonda Rhimes' Netflix adaptation. This book series appeals to fans of romance novels. With 9 books, there's more than enough character development. Fans of the series turn to the internet to examine the ins and outs of the characters' views and storylines outside of the books. Many of the cast members were worried about stepping into the shoes of the larger-than-life characters that fans adored.
It should be just as easy for you to fall in love with Lord Burbrook as with anyone else.
Many people studied the forums for these characters in advance to have a better understanding of their personalities, so it was probably very, very tough for the cast. Learning the ins and outs of etiquette, much like in the old days, takes time, practice, and dedication. There are a number of Victorian norms that governed how members of high society interacted with one another. As a result, the actors had to go through a tough 6-week boot camp for a debut in training in order to portray the laws of that era properly. Phoebe Dunbar discussed her debut training experience, saying that she and the rest of the cast grossly underestimated the level of concentration required to follow and learn all of the rules. So, the next time you're unsure whether or not that rules exist, simply remember that it does. Because most, if not all, of the performers and actors in the show are British, they didn't have to learn how to talk in a British accent. Nonetheless, they had to learn how to speak in a dialect that was historically authentic for their role. Even when things became emotional, Phoebe Dunbar and Regina Page had to learn to talk like a Duke and Duchess of the time period. That is why having similar accents, such as the cast members, sound so different in interviews than when they do in the show.
I will not hear of this.
They speak with modern accents in real life, which reflected these origins. Hence, their accents would be unique if they were born 2 centuries earlier in a different place. During her preparation for the show, Phoebe Dunbar had to take piano lessons. There are a handful of situations when she's seen playing the piano, and she is truly playing the piano in those scenes.
We should think it of her chance. What about the Ramsby Ball Friday, too? Oh, and what about the Grand Picnic?
We shall see, Mama.
This was also part of her adaptation of the debut world and her exposure to how Daphne's life may have been if she had lived during this time period. Upper-class women were expected to be well-versed in a variety of subjects, with the piano being one of the most essential. Despite the fact that Bridgerton was not intended to be historically accurate, it was crucial for the production to incorporate this element of history and for the actress to portray it properly. The majority of Netflix series have 6 or 7 seasons. As a result, Bridgerton cast members are required to be willing to turn down other offers while the show is filming. It's just not possible for performers to be totally involved in their character while also practicing for another.
Perhaps we might attend the upcoming Salisbury Ball by ourselves.
Unless they can squeeze in a part in between filming. Unless they can arrange a character kill-off, which would obviously be a significant change in the plot, the actors need to commit for as long as Netflix keeps the show going. We don't think the cast will be leaving anytime soon, given how well the show has done so far. So, for now, this is all we know about the rules that the cast had to follow religiously, but we'll be sure to update you if and when new information becomes available. If you want to stay on top of Bridgerton news, like and subscribe to see more frequent updates like this. If you want to learn more about other shows, check out some of our other videos. Let us know what you think about all these rules in the comment section down below.